So congratulations, by the way, on your victory. Now, we just heard right there in your speech on election night, so I want to get right into it, about your top priority being guns. So where do you think the system has failed thus far, and what are the new tools that you speak of?
Well, we need to invest more deeply, and this is not, I don't suggest a unique idea, but it's an investment of resources into gun trafficking. When I was the chief deputy, the #2 lawyer in the New York State Attorney General's office, we looked at every single gun found at a crime scene in the state of New York, and we traced it back to its last lawful sale from a federally licensed firearms dealer.
Yeah.
The data is a literal blueprint, so I want to operationalize that data portal. There are people sitting far afield from us, profiting off of our pain. So that is a cornerstone of what I want to do on guns.
While we're talking about the topic of guns, I just want to get your thoughts right now on what's happening within the Supreme Court. I don't know if you've been following it very closely. This whole idea that they want to make it easier to carry a concealed weapon in New York City and New York State. Not yet ruled on yet, but what are your overall thoughts here?
Well, the first thing is we should all be grateful that we have Solicitor General Barbara Underwood, my former colleague, and one of the best lawyers and the best appellate advocate in the country, voicing the concerns of New Yorkers. My plan that I just talked about in terms of tracing the guns, if we don't have strong gun laws, I mean, it's based in part, it's predicated on us having our strong New York laws for me as district attorney to enforce. So I've been following it closely. I'm concerned, but happy that we have Solicitor General Underwood making the case for us.
So, sir, public safety is also the priority of Mayor-elect Eric Adams. He's been talking about that since really day one on the campaign trail to this very moment. How do you plan on working with him moving forward on this issue?
I'm looking forward to working with Mayor-elect Adams. We've, talked on the campaign trail. We've talked, shared, stories. We've had kind of similar stories in that he, obviously working as a police officer, me as a prosecutor, but also we've been on the other end and talked about police accountability. And so I look forward to talking to him, with him, and working together on safety and fairness issues.
Yeah, but one of the issues that you actually differ on is the NYPD plainclothes office unit. Adams wants to bring it back in some form, right? You disagree with that. I just want to get you on the record as to why.
Sure. So when I think about the plainclothes unit, I think about Amadou Diallo.
Yeah.
And the reasons that were sketched out by, the current mayor and current police commissioner when it was disbanded this past year. So I look forward to talking to Mayor-elect Adams about, how he's looking to revamp it. But, I certainly have concerns, historically, how it was deployed and the civil rights violations and the deaths that arose. So I look forward to that conversation.
Mr. Bragg, I want to talk about Rikers Island, which has really been topping the headlines in recent weeks. You called it a humanitarian crisis, right? And that getting people out of jail is a priority. So how do you go about doing that from the district attorney's perspective?
Well, look, Manhattan sends a disproportionately high number of people who are at Rikers when you compare it to other boroughs. So it's looking at the docket and looking at cases, and recall, for those who don't know or are watching, Rikers is primarily a pretrial detention facility, so folks there have not been adjudicated guilt, and their cases, I know from my work as a civil rights lawyer, I know from my work as a prosecutor, cases where we can have folks awaiting trial at home, and think about the effects on communities. It's so destabilizing. People pulled out of their homes, daycare, elder care, jeopardized, and so ultimately, this is something I think will make us safer, our community stronger, and certainly will in the midst of COVID and the real urgent crisis at Rikers now with the conditions there, I think calls out for us to take some very significant steps.
Yeah, you mentioned on the same topic here, racial disparities, mental health issues, as two of the biggest that we're seeing right now within the criminal justice system. So how do you tackle that?
We have to be very affirmative, starting with the racial justice issues. It's every step along the way. The Vera Institute did a study in 2015 documenting in Manhattan every step along the way. And so we need to use data to help us in real time. So looking at the cases we're bringing, and that report showed that, similarly situated people of different race, the black person's getting a harsher plea offer, a longer sentence. We're going to use data within the DA's office to neutralize that and dismantle those disparities.
Okay, and and a big topic right now that I think I've asked you about before, but now that you are the district attorney elect here, where do things stand with the investigation into former President Donald Trump? Are you going to be moving forward with that case?
So I don't recall exactly what I said before, but my guess is something along the lines of what I'll say now, which is, yes, obviously on Tuesday things changed, and now the district attorney elect, but I still don't have any additional information outside the public domain. My objective there is to follow the facts as I've done throughout my career. I've joined other complex investigations midstream. My strong default is to keep that team intact. Continuity is important for a case like that. But I can't add to my answer. I don't know anything more from last time we spoke.
Yeah, I understood. That's fair. And right now, I mean, you're very busy because you're also in the middle of a case where you're representing Gwen Carr, Eric Garner's mother, in an inquiry into policy and policing. Can you give us a status of where that actually stands and what you hope to really gain from this case?
Yeah, so I just stepped out of the virtual courtroom to talk briefly with you. The judges said this is likely to be the last day. We've now this is our 8th day. We've been pushing for transparency, trying to get answers for matters that have not been answered for 7+ years. The medical care that was not provided at the scene by officers. What we allege in the petition was the leaks of Mr. Garner's alleged arrest history. And then finding out to sort of, why was not discipline imposed? What were the bases for the disciplinary decisions other than the two disciplinary actions that were taken? So we'll be winding down today, it appears. We've learned a lot. But as anyone who's following it knows, we've made some applications to try to learn some more.
Well, yeah, I mean, the goal here is transparency, right? Because there's no real, it's not like they're going to be disciplined now.
Well, yeah, the goal is transparency, and I think by extension, that the transparency would lead to accountability.
Yeah, right. All right, understood. Well, Mr. Bragg, I appreciate you making the time, stepping out of that virtual courtroom for this interview. And, it's been 40+ years since there's been Rob Morgenthau and Cy Vance, only 2 DAs really before you for the past 40 years. This is a big moment in history for New York City, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you every step of the way. Thanks for making the time.
Thank you.